Welcome to Iko. Our instructor at the Iko Training Centre will show you how to apply roofing shingles in a simple and correct manner. Please refer to the online application manual for further information. Safety, although the number one priority, is one matter that is not covered during this demonstration, since requirements vary from one country to another. Please check with your local health and safety advisor for further information. Following these 12 modules will give you an overview on how to do the job correctly. We always recommend installing an Iko underlay. It flattens the surface and provides an extra protection against leakage. We start with the valley. The roof boarding must be flat, strong, dry and firmly affixed to the construction. Multiplex, OSB or planks are all recommended here. Install the underlay as flat as possible, parallel to the eaves. Overlapping vertically and horizontally by 10 centimeters. The underlay must be glued onto the drip edges with an Iko shingle stick. Finish off the eaves with a corrosion-resistant eaves profile. For the valley application, we use a high-quality roll roofing in an appropriate colour. Secure this layer with a nail every 40 centimetres. The visible part on top should be 16 centimetres wide, 8 centimetres left and 8 centimetres right of the centre line. The part of the valley that is visible afterwards is wider underneath than on top. We have to do this because water tends to collect in the bottom section. The open centre line should become 2 centimetres wider per metre valley. The length of the valley thus determines the width of the open strip in the bottom section. This module will show you how Iko rectangular shingles are applied. Other shingle types are demonstrated in later modules. To ease the separation of the shingles, the bundles are bent before they are opened. Open the bundles using the back of a utility knife. Be careful not to cut any part of the shingle that will be visible later. Do not remove the anti-adhesive foil. This will make sure the shingles in the packaging do not stick to one another. Mix shingles from various bundles to avoid colour blocks being visible once the roof is finished. This is important. We make the starter strip by cutting the tabs of the shingles. To ensure that the seams of the starter strip do not coincide with those of the first row of shingles, half a tab is cut off the starter strip. The resulting strip should hang roughly 1 centimetre over the eaves. Place the strip with the adhesive dots on the underside. After installation, the adhesive dots will seal down the shingles using solar heat. Nail down the starter strip with a shingle as a reference, so the heads of the nails will be covered later on. The starter strip is cut along the chalk line in the valley. To avoid water from the valley under the shingles, make a triangular cut at roughly 5 centimetres from the strip, leaving an area free from nails, roughly 5 centimetres up the valley, and glue it down. Next, install the first row of shingles on the starter strip. The nails are now positioned 2.5 centimetres from the edge and 2.5 centimetres above the cutout. Chalk lines drawn both vertically as well as horizontally are a useful visual aid to ensure the shingles follow a straight line. The starter strip and all shingles that join on the eave profile are glued with Iko shingle stick. Shingles should always be installed diagonally and thus are shortened by half a tab each time. There are little cuts or marking points in the shingles for checking the correct overlap is achieved. A diagonal step flashing is created that guarantees rapid draining and strengthens the whole construction. We finish off with whole shingles. Use corrosion-resistant, fully barbed nails with large heads about 25 mm in length. The number of nails is determined by the type of shingle, the slope of the roof and the wind force. In windy areas, double nailing above the cutouts and additional gluing of each tab will be necessary. The hip and ridge pieces are cut from the shingles and installed using a chalk line. They are then nailed down roughly 2.5 centimetres under the adhesive dots and 2.5 centimetres from the edge. Nail the next hip piece 16 centimetres from the tab edge, continuing upwards. Apply the shingles up to the ridge. A minimum of 20 centimetres must be left uncut on each end of the ridge. Remove the underlay, leaving 2.5 centimetres each side away from the ridge. Cut a 5 centimetre slot along the ridge. For a roof with a centre beam, a 9 centimetre slot should be cut. Trim off a piece from the armour vent multi-plus roll. Make sure the vent covers the nails of the last installed shingle row and is close fitting to the previous visible section of shingles. Secure the vent using long corrosion-resistant nails with large heads. The ridge pieces that will be installed on top of the vent are similarly fastened with long nails. Alternatively, you can use Ridge Plus for installing ridge ventilation. Again, mix shingles from different bundles to avoid colour blocks on the finished roof. Make the starting strip by cutting tabs off the shingles. Half a tab is cut off the starter strip to ensure that the seams of the starter strip do not coincide with those of the first row of shingles. Triangular-shaped shingles should always be installed diagonally, and thus are shortened each time by half a tab. There are little cuts or marking points in the shingles to double-check a correct overlap. Diagonal steps are created before finishing the rows with whole shingles. Watch carefully how the hips and ridges are cut from the shingles and applied. Bend in a package before applying. They are then nailed down roughly 2.5 centimetres under the adhesive dots and 2.5 centimetres from the edge, exposing each hip piece by 14 centimetres. The vent opening in the roof boarding is equal to the inside measurement of the vent cap. Position the vent cap so that it covers the nails of the last installed row of roof shingles. First, glue down the shingles using Iko shingle stick. Then secure the nails in areas where they will be covered by the shingles. Proceed upwards in the same manner. Finish with a complete and slightly trimmed roof shingle. Make the starter strip by cutting the 6 tabs from the shingles. To ensure that the seams of the starter strip do not coincide with those of the first row of shingles, cut half a tab off the starter strip. Shingles should always be installed diagonally. After the installation of the first complete shingle, the next shingles are shortened by half a tab each time. A diagonal step flashing is created. Unlike other shingle installations, the hips and ridges are not finished off with the same type of shingle, but with rectangular ones. Iko self-adhesive shingles are the perfect solution for vertical walls. Snap a chalk line to make sure that the starting strip is perfectly horizontal. Half a tab is cut from the shingle which is to be installed. Remove the foil before nailing. To ensure that any nails are covered afterwards, use a shingle as a reference point. On vertical walls, this type of shingle is also nailed in the top corners. Progressing in an upwards diagonal direction, finishing each row with a whole shingle. The visible nails of the top row are covered with a dot of Iko shingle stick. The laminated shingles in this film are self-adhesive and can be installed on low roof slopes under 15 degrees and above 9.5 degrees, or on vertical walls. The laminated roof shingles can be used for shingle-over-shingle renovation or on a new roof. For slopes under 15 degrees, the underlay must be self-adhesive. Secure the underlay with enough nails to hold it in place. The underlay should be installed parallel to the eaves. Vertical overlaps should be 15 centimetres and should be glued using Iko shingle stick. The horizontal overlap should be 10 centimetres. On all Iko armour base underlay, there are 10 centimetre lines on the rolls for easier overlapping. Mix laminated shingles from different bundles to avoid colour blocks on the finished roof. Install the starter strip with factory self-sealing dots to the eaves. Galvanised roofing nails, 30mm minimum in length, are recommended. Laminated shingles should always be installed diagonally. Start with a complete shingle applied flush with the starter strip at rakes and eaves. Do not forget to remove the white foil from the underside of each shingle before installation. For the next row, cut off 25 centimeters from the left end of the laminated shingle and start at the rake end. Position the nails in between the two white lines. Cut off an additional 25 centimeters for each successive course. The grid lines on the underlay will help to check parallel alignment with the eaves. For maximum protection against wind-driven rain, cement the shingle at the rake edges. Finish off with whole shingles. The hips and ridges are not finished off with the same type of shingle, but with rectangular shingles in the same colour. Cut rectangular shingles into individual pieces by dividing the shingle at the cutouts. Bend each piece over the hip or ridge and nail 16 centimeters above the tab edge, 2.5 centimeters from each side, exposing each piece by 14 centimeters. The final cap shingle and exposed nails should be glued with Iko shingle stick. Additional granules can be used to cover these areas if required. Double hip and ridge overlapping creates a unique look. The vent opening in the roof boarding is equal to the inside measurement of the vent cap. Position the vent cap so that it covers the nails of the last installed roof shingle row. First, glue down the shingles using Iko shingle stick. Then, use nails only where they will be covered by preceding shingles. Proceed upwards in the same manner. Finish with a complete and slightly trimmed roof shingle. As can be seen, the underlay is installed with the edges sticking up against the chimney. Roof shingles are fitted in tight against the chimney. The professionally manufactured step flashing is then placed from the bottom up, alternating with the shingles. The first piece of flashing is placed on top of the shingles. Another shingle is placed on top of that. Followed by a second piece of flashing. This process is repeated until the chimney is completely covered. At the back of the chimney, you should make sure the shingle is placed on top of the flashing connection piece. Everything is then made watertight using counterflashing and a final strip of shingle stick. Iko Shingles for all roofs and walls, your long-lasting and hard-wearing solution. Check out www.iko.ve for further expert knowledge on roof shingles.